talk about the other side of the ledger, that would be Ryan Day. Number one, right choice, wrong choice, or don't we know yet?
I think good choice. I think the way they went about it, I said it at the time, I think they could have gone and looked a little harder, looked around a little bit more than they did. Gene Smith did sort of a cursory look at some other national people. I mean, this is a big time job.
It's one of the top three, right?
I would not have, yeah, I think that's right. I mean, you could argue with all the recruiting power and everything that's in the South right now, at least top five. I think you could have done a national search, but you might have come back to Ryan Day anyway. Not a bad choice. Not a bad choice. And he's smart.
Was there an Ohio State guy? We hear about Michigan guys. Was there an Ohio State guy out there they missed? Maybe Mike-Vrabel? Would he have been interested in coming back? I don't know who I'm even missing.
Yeah, I mean, I think it probably you start with Vrabel. When he left as an Ohio State assistant, went to the Texans several years ago, everyone knew at that point, I mean, he was doing that to be a head coach. I think he may have had interest, but also, I mean, not a ton of guys leave NFL head coaching jobs to be a head coach in college. You could have looked at Luke Fickell if you wanted to at Cincinnati, but I think there wasn't as quite of an obvious candidate, and I'd rather get Ryan Day on the way up than like maybe they would have looked, if they looked at Bob Stoops or something. Get somebody on the way up than somebody on the way down. So this is where we are, and they were very excited about keeping a lot of the other structures in place, having continuity, and I think the things they did there with the strength program, with recruiting, you've seen the payoff there, so that, yes, you hired Ryan Day, but you also kept a portion of Urban-Meyer, and if you had hired anybody else, you wouldn't have been able to do that.
Right. Is Urban still involved?
He's around. He's not around all the time, and that's been like a big thing to me of like how to, he can't cast a shadow. You can't feel like it's still really Urban-Meyer's program.
Let the reins go.
He's in the athletic department. He's across the street. They built him an office. He's he's not the assistant athletic director, but he's one of the myriad assistant athletic directors. He's helping out coaches on other teams, but he's not like an everyday presence with the football team.
All right, let me throw in a shameless plug here for a minute. As some of you know, I'm the vice president of the Greater Cleveland Sports Hall of Fame. And it's a 5-county area that we induct people. One of them includes Ashtabula, and now we can get Urban-Meyer. We couldn't get him before. Oh. Now we can. He's not doing anything on a Wednesday night in September. So September 18th is the night. Greater Cleveland Sports Hall of Fame. You can go to the website and purchase tickets for that. He will be there that night.
He will be there.
He will be there.
He'll be there? I'll be there then, too.
All right. The Lander Haven. Be there.
Yeah.
All right, we'll talk.
Yeah.
We'll have my people talk to your people.
Yeah. I thought you were going to say I was going to go in the Hall of Fame, but that's never going to happen.
You want to?
Sure.
I'll give you the key.
It's my only shot. So I think it's good.
Being in Hall of Fame is not a big deal.
That's a thing that a person in a Hall of Fame says.
Right.
As someone who will never be in a Hall of Fame, yes, it's a very big deal.
It is a big deal. Doug Lesmerises with us, cleveland.com, and the Plain Dealer. All right, so I'm not sure what this class, the 19 class, how much is Urban-Meyer, how much is Ryan Day, but I know Ryan Day is the guy for 2020, and that, you always see 5-star, 4-star, and you always want to say, well, let's see them. But here's what we've got. Right now, they're just names. Anybody stand out that is maybe going to be more than a name?
Yeah, there's a lot of guys on there, actually. They have, I think, 9 guys out of the top 100 recruits in the nation. There's 7 of them on that list there. There's only one team with more top 100 recruits right now than Ohio State. Julian-Fleming is a really polished kid that Penn State really wanted, so to beat Penn State for him was a big deal. And then Jack Miller, number 7 on that list, that is the quarterback of the future. That is the guy who is going to be the starting quarterback after Justin Fields. He's out of Arizona, big arm, can also move. That was the guy they picked. But really, this receiver class, there's another kid not on that list, Jaxon-Smith-Njigba, but you throw him in with G. Scott, Mookie-Cooper. Mookie-Cooper's a slot guy, and Julian-Fleming. They have 4 of the best receivers in the country. Brian-Hartline, the former Brown, the former Buckeye, who took over for Zach Smith last year, has been doing a great job on the recruiting trail. So you can see the future of this offense with the future quarterback and 4 future receivers already locked in this class.
I went to Brush High School. Do you know how cool it is to say, yeah, I'm from Chaparral?
Yeah. Well, you could come up with a fancier name for Brush. Yeah.
Chaparral is a pretty cool name for a high school.
Yeah. Oh, out in the desert, they have all those crazy names. But yeah, it's a good group. And the thing that I've said, and it's not a one-to-one comparison, if Ryan Day coaches as well as he's recruited so far,
right,
like they're great. They're good to go.
All right. You mentioned it's a top. We mentioned it's a top 3 program or whatever. Is Ryan Day looking this as a resume piece, or is this as high as is this where you go?
So it's hard because you can't assume with anybody, right? I talked to Ryan Day about this extensively a couple months ago.
That's a good question.
Great. That's why you're a Hall of Famer, Les. You ask the questions that matter. Ryan Day a year ago could have gone to work for Mike Vrabel in Tennessee. Mike Vrabel, when he got hired, wanted Ryan Day to be his offensive coordinator. Ryan Day turns that down to stay here. Basically, Ohio State says, we'll give you $1 million and psst, you're going to take over when Urban leaves. So Ryan Day stays. Matt LaFleur then becomes the Titans offensive coordinator. He's there 1 year. He's now the head coach of the Packers. So it's not exact. But Ryan Day could be the head coach of the Green Bay Packers right now. So if Ryan Day, if his dream, if he truly, truly, truly said, I'm going to be a head coach in the NFL and that's all I want to do, he could have taken a path already that would have gotten him there more quickly. He has young children. He and his wife have moved around a lot. They were interested in settling down a little bit. They want this lifestyle. He's not from here, so it's different than Urban. It's different than Jim Tressel. It's different than Earl Bruce. It's different than... You don't have that in your blood and in your bones that you grew up on this stuff. So, like, you can joke and say he's from New Hampshire. Hey, is he going to replace Bill Belichick with the Patriots when Bill Belichick retires if Josh McDaniels doesn't take the job? I think there will be a little bit of that with Ryan Day forever, just because he's not an Ohio guy. But I'm also not an Ohio guy, and I've covered this team for 15 years. So he's saying all the right things. He says he wants to be here. He says he wants to settle in. He said repeatedly, we are here for the long haul. So I don't think it's fair to him to say, yeah, but you're not from Ohio.
Right.
It's not a prerequisite to be from the state in which you coach.
You know, you just said something that I had not thought about before, and when you think about it, it makes a lot of sense. To me, an Ohio State guy, the skull sessions before the games, the Buckeye Grove, the whatever, all the Ohio State traditions that there are, means something to me. It's hard to believe it doesn't mean something to almost everybody. And you're just saying, it's one school has this. I'm sure the other schools have popular things too. It's just Ohio State is ingrained in me, and it's hard to picture an Ohio State coach who's not ingrained in it.
Yeah, it's if you limit your pool of coaching hires to guys who grew up in Ohio, you're giving your university short shrift, right? It's just you can't do that. Even though there's a million great coaches from Ohio.
Also in previous staffs, there's usually a guy you could pinpoint and say he's the next guy. That Ohio guy is the next guy.
Right. And you know, like maybe Brian-Hartline will be that guy. Like Luke Fickell was that guy for a long time. So it's not fair to hold Ryan Day to that standard. I joke sometimes. I mean, he's like trying to say, like, when I was growing up in New Hampshire, the Ohio State-Michigan game, and I'm like, okay, it's okay. You're from New Hampshire. It's okay. But I will say again, and I don't mean to make this about me, but I make everything about me. I'm not from here, right? And I didn't know basically jack squat about Ohio State when I started covering them.
Jack Squat was a good wide receiver.
See, probably at Ohio State that I wouldn't have known that. And I got here in 2005, and it's one of those things, I didn't grow up on it. But I'll tell you what, man, Script Ohio is cool for everybody. And the skull session is cool for everybody. Right. And so there is a part of that it's like you don't have to be from here to appreciate it, to want to be part of it, to embrace it. I think a little bit of it will hang over Ryan Day. What's he going to do next? Ohio State's never been a stepping stone job for anybody, not since Paul Brown.
I felt, though, on the day he got the job or the day he spoke at the press conference, I thought he overdid it a little bit about Script Ohio, and it's. I don't mean to say it was scripted. It just seemed that it wasn't. He was talking about all those things, but it didn't seem natural.
Well, I think you do. You try to overcompensate for the fact that Urban Meyer's talking about. Urban Meyer walks around with a Buckeye nut in his pocket and talks about when he would be at the grocery store with his mom in the Ohio State-Michigan game, was playing over the loudspeaker at the grocery store when he was 6 years old. Urban Meyer did. I mean, Urban Meyer lived it. Jim Tressel lived it.
Right.
They grew up with it. Ryan Day can never be that. But guess what? Like, the University of New Hampshire is not very good at football.
No, they're not.
So he can't aspire to be that. But he's smart. He's personable. He's been preparing for this opportunity. He's recruited really well. He's an up-and-coming offensive mind. Everything else, I think he has what you want.
You think when the stuff broke on Urban and Earl Bruce's grandson, you think when it broke, Day knew he was next in line really quick?
Yeah, I think he did. I think they had talked to him about They gave him $1 million. I wasn't thrilled with paying an assistant $1 million.
Right.
They weren't the first to do it. They were actually behind the times a little bit. He knew he was getting an opportunity here. The $1 million wasn't enough to keep him alone. He had to know, I have a future here.
Right.
He knew he had a future here. They had talked about replacing Urban. He didn't know that it was going to happen so quickly, but I think he had a very good idea. If this feels like it's getting sideways, I'm going to be the next head coach of Ohio State.